Hi, welcome to today's Trends Talk. I'm Brian Beaulieu.
And I'm Alan Beaulieu.
And we're here to talk about some updates of what's going on in the economy. GDP data for the second quarter recently came out, and there's a pretty good revision to the look of that data.
And then there's good news that came out as far as personal consumption expenditures, and some less than good news that came out about non-defense capital goods new orders excluding aircraft.
Which really wasn't even all that good for PCE.
Oh, well, the media made it sound good.
Yeah, the media made it sound good, but it wasn't as good as they make it out to be, which is, pretty much par for the course, right?
Good point. This reminds me of the piece I just did about a tale of two cities, tale of two houses. Talking about China. The consumers are doing great, and business is not doing great, and we seem to be a little parallel there, in that the consumer side is at least feeling better and thinks they're doing better than the industrial side.
Oh, absolutely. And the government's done a lot to prop up in China, the consumer side of the economy. Here it's more free market, which makes it stronger, better in the long run.
That's true.
For GDP, the data didn't change all that much in terms of the really recent data, but the huge change for us was, instead of showing an accelerating growth rate through 1Q 2019, which the previous data did for GDP adjusted for inflation, the revised data showed that the growth peak occurred in mid-2018, smack dab when we thought it was going to occur based on all the leading indicators.
Which was phenomenal. You heard all the economists in the office go, now that makes sense.
Yeah, we couldn't figure out why was Canada leading the U.S. by so much, and why was the GDP data not turning around where it normally does with the leading indicators? And it was like a big smack on the head, right? The data was flawed.
So we were very happy with this revision because it makes sense, and we like it when the world makes sense.
Yeah, the world is better when it makes sense, which is a whole different topic. Our forecast is essentially unchanged. We were calling for the slowdown in the GDP to continue through 1Q 2019, and we were saying that the 312 rate of change would reach its trough in March 2019 at 0.5%. So we'd see just a little bit of skinny year-over-year growth for 1Q 19, but the quarter itself in the first quarter of 20 would be down from the fourth quarter of 19. And the revised tweaking we did, the look said 312 low is going to come in at 0.7 March of 2020 instead of the 0.5. And it's still 1Q 20 coming in just slightly below 4Q 19. So the look and feel and shape of the forecast down to the trough hasn't changed. And before and now, we're still looking for the growth rate to peak at about 2.5% around mid-2021, which means a slower than normal growth going on in the economy. Is significantly different than the feel shape of the business cycle that ended apparently on the upside in mid-2018.
So in essence, this is almost not even a tweak, but we'll call this a tweak to the forecast and not a revision.
It is not a revision, but it is a tweak, twin.
It is a tweak.
If we get it together, it'd be a twin tweak.
And how about those consumers?
The personal consumption expenditure data was also revised. It's part of the input to GDP, so they're revised at the same time. And noteworthy is the fact that with the revised data, the 312 for the personal consumption expenditure data, called PCE for simplicity's sake, coincides with the retail sales 12/12 peak of August 2018. The PCE data is seasonally adjusted annualized rate, so the 312 equals the 12/12. So with the revision, we have PCE and retail sales data moving back in a synchronous manner. The peaks were within 0.4 percentage points of each other in terms of amplitude. And right now, when you look at the values, they're still very, very close. We have them within 0.6 percentage points in terms of values between PCE data and retail sales data. So they're back to showing the same thing. There was some modest good news and you were correct in alluding to it, Alan, in that in the second quarter anyways, the hemorrhaging stopped. The situation stabilized. It was a perfectly horrendous first quarter, much weaker than normal first quarter start to the year. Second quarter, the situation stabilized, or at least it didn't continue to deteriorate into overt negativity. So, if you're looking for some upside behavior, there it was.
But not to be too negative, and 1 month is not a trend make. If I remember right, the retail sales number for June was not healthy.
No, it was not healthy. It was.
So we don't want to take too much positive away from that second quarter number, because it could have been,
Oh yeah,
it's done.
it's done. And there are a lot of things where aspects of the economy that still concern us, some of which we're going to talk about in your trends talk and for future trends talk. The other part of the update right now is for non-defense capital goods new orders. That trend line is softening up fast, faster than we thought it was going to. As a matter of fact, the data, the 12-month moving total for mid-year 19 is 2.2% below our year ago estimate. So technically that gives us a 97.8% accuracy rating, but we just don't like the way that trend is going. It's softening up much faster than we would like to see it. And it really has us a little bit concerned about just how soft this recession is going to be. Because as you and I were looking at, the profitability data for the S&P 500 is negative. The second quarter results are now at minus 2.4 or minus 2.6%, something like that. So that means this CapEx spending is going to continue to soften. And that had us, and we will be looking further into whether we need to modify this forecast or not.
Which is certainly something to keep in mind for everybody that's listening, that's distribution, manufacturing, supply chain involvement at all. We're heading right into that softer second half of 2019, which we've been talking about for the last year.
Yeah, and it's not a surprise. We're just trying to watch all the indicators to make sure we aren't surprised on the downside or the upside, for that matter. You and I briefly were talking about we're getting some of those early leading indicator signals. I wrote about that in the July 2019 executive summary of the trends report. I mean, they're tentatively beginning to spring up. Some of them are going to go away. Some of them are here to stay. So while everybody's starting to get hyped up about the softness, like, oh no, oh my, where did this come from? We're already encouraging people to think, all right, this is what we were talking about. This is what you're prepared for. Now watch these leading indicators, because the next thing to get ready for is going to be the upstroke.
Very much so. And that happens all the time. Brian and I have seen this over the last 3 decades, three plus decades for him. And that is that when the world looks darkest, people are expecting the worst, the bottom of the fallout. You have to focus on those leading indicators and what they mean to your business, because most often people are behind the curve and they're expecting that falling off just as we're coming to the trough.
And therein lies the opportunity of competitive advantage. You're buying things while others are afraid, and you're making aggressive moves to capture the upside of the economy, and it's a good time.
It is a good time coming. So stay tuned. We'll keep you abreast of those leading indicators. Wish you a good day.
Have a great day. This is Trends Talk, Brian and Alan from ITR Economics.